psychoanalysis could be viewed as a part belonging to a broader movement that was going on during the previous century. All intellectual movements, no matter how diverse, followed more or less the same path in the 20th century. Concerns about language became to dominate the intellectual atmosphere from Carnap to Heidegger and from Searle to Derrida. The analytic and the continental traditions both developed unique ways of dealing with language, and psychoanalysis was not exempt from such endeavors. The most predominant figure to take up this challenge was Jacques Lacan. Lacan introduced the innovative method of reading Freud under the light of structuralism, which was sometimes accompanied by Hegelian, Marxian, or Heideggerian twists. He saw it essential to return to Freud and emphasize the prominence of Freud over all other psychoanalysts. His advice to all psychoanalysts was that he can do no better than return to Freud's work. This return to Freud had to be a linguistic return to keep up with his times, but he did not go on reciting Freud word for word without bringing any originality into Freud's texts. He started to read between the lines and restructured the edifice Freud had built in a unique way in order to make it fit his own understanding of psychoanalysis. One might wonder why the linguistic reading of Freud was viewed as necessary by Lacan. From one perspective, it all has to do with truth. The meaning of a return to Freud is a return to Freud's meaning, and the meaning of what Freud said may be conveyed to anyone because, while addressed to everyone, it concerns each person. One word suffices to make this point. Freud's discovery calls truth into question, and there is no one who is not personally concerned by truth. Nevertheless, according to Lacan, it is not possible to arrive at truth outside of language. The dimension of truth emerges with the appearance of language. Therefore, emphasis on language is at the heart of Lacanian psychoanalysis, so much so that the lingual dimension comes to form one of the three elementary registers which Lacan calls the symbolic, the imaginary, and the real. Such a distinction is unique to Lacanian psychoanalysis, and it is absolutely crucial for any reader of Lacan to have a basic understanding of each of these three orders. Lacan uses the Borinian knot to explain the structure of this triad. What is unique about the Borinian knot is that the knot enjoys the Borinian property that if I cut any of the rings that I have arranged in this way, all the others are set free. This shows the interrelation and interdependency of these three registers. The way we perceive reality is absolutely dependent upon the relations these three registers have with one another. To put it concisely, the imaginary deals with appearances and our interpersonal relations with other people. The symbolic forms the dimension of what has been signified and is meaningful to an individual. It is, in a sense, the lingual dimension. The real, which should not be confused with the reality, is that which has remained unsymbolized. In order to demonstrate why it is absolutely essential for an analyst to be able to make a distinction between these three registers, we can focus on the two registers of the imaginary and the symbolic. In his first seminar, Lacan explains how Jung fails to make the necessary distinction between these two registers. Lacan considers psychosis and neurosis to be structurally different. In the refusal to recognize, in the barrier opposed to reality by the neurotic, we note a recourse to fancy. Here we have function, which in Freud's vocabulary can only refer to the imaginary register. We know the extent to which people and objects in the neurotic's milieu change significance entirely. In relation to a function, there is no problem in naming it, without going further than ordinary linguistic usage as imaginary. Freud emphasizes that nothing comparable is to be found in psychosis. When it comes to the psychotic subject, if he loses the realization of the real, he doesn't find any imaginary substitute. That is what distinguishes him from the neurotic. The psychotic relates to reality in a different manner. When the psychotic reconstructs his world, what is invested to start off with? The answer is what. There you cannot but recognize the category of the symbolic. Consequently, without making a distinction between the imaginary and the symbolic, the analyst cannot deal with neurosis and psychosis properly. Lacan claims that Freud perfectly understood such a crucial distinction, whereas Jung failed to do so. According to the Jungian schema, psychic interest comes and goes out, comes back, hollers, etc. It drowns the libido in the universal magma which will be the basis of the world's constitution. It's a pretty metaphor, but it throws no light on practice, as Freud underlines. It does not allow one to grasp the differences that there might be between a directed, sublimated retreat of interest in the world which the anchorite may achieve, and that of the schizophrenic, whose result is however structurally quite distinct, since the subject discovers that he is completely stuck. The introduction of the symbolic order into psychoanalysis enables Lacan to break free of the traditional movement in psychoanalysis. Before Lacan, psychoanalytic practice was mostly focused on a dyadic relation between the ego of the analyst and the ego of the analysant. By taking the figure of the big other into account, this dyadic relation breaks down. Therefore, another crucial distinction in Lacanian psychoanalysis is the difference between the little other, or simply the other written with a lowercase o, and the big other, or simply the other written with a capital O. The little other is situated in the imaginary, and it is mostly involved in interpersonal relations and their consequences such as identification. On the contrary, the big other is situated in the symbolic. We all address ourselves to this unknown figure of the other. Every action we perform is virtually a message addressed to the other, and it is this unknown other that defines our reality. Not only an analyst has to take into account the other, but he also has to elevate himself to take the place of the other in psychoanalytic practice. In his seminar on Freud's papers on technique, Lacan criticizes Anna Freud for overemphasizing the role of the ego in psychoanalysis. Anna Freud's point of view is intellectualist and leads her to putting forward the view that everything in analysis must be conducted from a medium moderate position, which would be that of the ego. For her, everything starts with the education or the persuasion of the ego, and everything must come back to that. What Lacan is really criticizing is Anna Freud's failure in making a distinction between dyadic interpretation in practice and an interpretation which moves forward in the direction of the symbolic structuration of the subject, which is to be located beyond the present structure of his ego. Lacan sarcastically remarks, since it is argued that one is trying to bring about the patient's readaptation to the real, one really ought to find out if it is the analyst's ego which offers the measure of the real. By such attempts as trying to strengthen the subject's ego, the analyst is performing the narcissistic act of trying to model the analysant's ego after himself. Lacan argues that it is only by taking the place of the other that the analyst becomes able to do proper analysis, and any other place for the analyst leads him back to the dyadic relation, which has no other outcome than the dialectic of misrecognition, negation, and narcissistic alienation that Freud repeatedly indicates throughout his work to be the ego's doing.